Hey there, and welcome to a deep dive that's going to really equip us to understand and manage depression.
Really important topic.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
We're going to be drawing some really powerful insights from this book right here,
Yes.
My Turn to Care by Dr. Warwick Cooper.
Wonderful resource.
Now, he wrote this
Yeah.
as a way to get families, and even those in ministry, talking more openly about caring for loved ones,
Yes.
struggling with mental health.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're going to do today,
Great.
using his words as our guide.
It's such important work, and he doesn't shy away from the tough stuff.
No, he doesn't.
Not at all.
He gets straight to the point
Yeah.
with his definition of depression that I think will really resonate.
Okay.
He says,
Yeah.
and I'm quoting here, depression is a mental health disorder characterized by persistent feelings of sadness,
Right.
hopelessness, and a lack of interest or pleasure in daily activities.
That lack of interest part always gets me,
Yeah.
because it's not just feeling down in the dumps. It's that you don't want to do the things you normally enjoy.
Right.
Cooper uses the clinical term anhedonia,
Wow.
but it really means losing that spark of joy in the things you used to love.
Yeah. Like you're saying, it's beyond just feeling sad. It's like a loss of
Exactly, that zest for life.
Yeah.
The things that used to give you pleasure just don't anymore.
Right. And that's really hard for people to understand
It is.
who haven't experienced it.
Exactly.
Now, Cooper goes on to describe all different types of depression,
Yes.
major depressive disorder, persistent depressive disorder, sometimes called dysthymia,
Right.
bipolar disorder, and others. He makes it very clear. These are just categories
Yes.
that every single person experiences depression in their own unique way.
Very important to remember that.
It is.
Yeah, you can't compare your experience to someone else's.
Right.
And one thing that stood out to me was how he connects depression to the bigger picture. He emphasizes that it's a significant contributor to the global burden of disease,
Wow.
even linking it to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals.
So it's a worldwide challenge.
It is a worldwide challenge.
This is something that affects
Absolutely.
all of us,
It does.
whether we realize it or not.
Right.
But let's maybe bring it back down to the individual experience here
Okay.
for a second
Yeah.
and talk about some of the causes of depression.
Okay.
Cooper approaches it almost like a detective,
I like that.
piecing together clues.
Yes.
He says it's this combination of your genetics,
Mm-hmm.
your biology, your environment,
Right.
and your psychology.
It's rarely just one thing.
No, it's never one thing.
It's complex. Like he talks about how personal losses, the death of a loved one, a difficult breakup, those can be major triggers for people.
Of course.
But then he also points out that anniversaries of tough times, even holidays,
Really?
yeah,
Also.
can bring up unexpected waves of sadness or pressure.
Because you think of holidays
Right.
as being happy.
You're supposed to be joyful.
Right.
But for some people, it can actually magnify those feelings of loneliness or bring up past experiences.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So it's not just those big events.
Right.
It can be those little things that kind of
Exactly.
trigger us.
The little things can sometimes be the biggest triggers.
Right.
Because we don't expect them.
And then what about those internal struggles?
Oh, yes.
Because
those are harder to pinpoint sometimes.
yeah, it's like what's going on in our own heads and our hearts
Yeah.
that can really weigh us down.
Give me an example.
Well, think about pent-up anger
Okay.
that we might not even realize we're carrying around.
Right.
Unresolved guilt
Mm-hmm.
or the dreaded burnout from work.
Oh, yeah.
Cooper even talks about the impact of unresolved conflicts
Wow.
and how all these internal pressures can kind of build up and contribute to depression. So we're talking about this complex web of factors
Absolutely.
that all kind of come together.
Yes.
What about brain chemistry?
Oh, yes. The brain chemistry.
How does that play into it?
Well, that's where things get really fascinating.
Okay.
Because Cooper talks about how important these things called neurotransmitters are, like serotonin and dopamine.
Yeah, I've heard of those.
You've probably heard of them because those are the ones that often get targeted with medication.
Oh.
He doesn't get too deep into the science.
All right.
But just knowing that these chemicals play a role can be helpful
It can.
because it connects what we're feeling to what might be happening on a biological level.
Yeah, it makes it feel less like
Exactly.
it's all in our head.
Less like a character flaw, more like there's something going on that we need to address.
Okay, so we're talking about brain chemistry.
Yes.
We're talking about all these factors. And then Cooper kind of throws us for a loop here with this observation about depression in successful senior men.
Yes. This is fascinating.
It is.
Have you noticed this at all now?
I mean, now that you mention it, I do feel like
Yeah.
when I was in my 20s, I could like pick things up really quickly,
Yeah.
learn new things, and now it's more about using my experience
Exactly.
to solve problems.
That's a perfect example.
Is that what he's talking about?
That's exactly what he's talking about.
Okay.
He says fluid intelligence is like your brain's processing speed,
Got it.
your ability to kind of solve problems quickly on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
It peaks in early adulthood,
Okay.
and then it naturally declines a bit as we get older.
So that's that fluid intelligence.
That's the fluid intelligence.
Okay.
And then as we get older, we develop more of what's called crystallized intelligence.
Yeah, what's that?
And that's all about the wisdom and knowledge that you've built up over time.
So like our experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it like your own personal library of experiences.
So are you saying that men struggle with that?
Some men.
Okay.
Some men, especially those who've always relied on that quick wit and mental agility.
But have always been told they're smart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they get to a certain age and they're like, wait a minute,
Right.
I'm not as quick as I used to be.
Is this depression?
Am I losing it?
Yeah.
And it can be a really tough transition.
Wow.
Because it's not that they're any less intelligent.
Right.
It's just a different stage of life.
Yeah.
And embracing that shift is really key.
And yeah, that probably resonates with people of all ages.
Absolutely. It's about transitions.
Right.
We all go through them
Yeah.
at different points in our lives.
Where we have to redefine what success looks like.
Exactly.
And speaking of which,
Yes.
let's talk about some of those coping strategies
Okay, let's do it.
for dealing with these feelings.
All right. And when it comes to coping strategies, Cooper breaks them down based on how severe the depression is.
Okay.
Mild, moderate, and severe.
Makes sense.
And he's very clear this isn't medical advice,
Of course.
but it's a helpful way to think about what kind of support you might need.
Right. So let's start with mild depression.
Okay.
What are some things that people can do on a daily basis to feel a little bit more empowered?
One of the things he suggests is establishing a daily routine.
Really?
I know it seems counterintuitive
It does.
because when you're feeling down, the last thing you want to do,
Right. Stick to a schedule.
stick to a rigid schedule.
Yeah.
But he explains how structure can actually be incredibly grounding
Okay.
when you're feeling lost in the fog of depression.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like that advice your grandmother might give you. You know, that just seems so simple, but it actually makes a big difference.
It does make a difference.
It does.
Yeah.
What else for mild depression? Well, he also covers the classics.
Yep.
The tried and true strategies that we know can make a big difference.
Give me some examples.
Getting enough sleep, making time for exercise.
Yeah.
He even gets a bit science-y here,
Okay.
talking about how exercise releases endorphins,
Right.
which can boost your mood.
Those feel-good chemicals.
Exactly.
Yeah. But sometimes even getting out of bed can feel impossible
Oh, absolutely.
when you're really in it.
And Cooper gets that.
Okay.
Why he also stresses the importance of social connection.
Yeah.
Even if it's just reaching out to one trusted friend,
Yeah.
you don't have to put on a brave face or pretend you're okay.
Right.
Just having someone to talk to can make a world of difference.
And I would say this is where support groups
Yeah.
can be really valuable too.
Absolutely.
Because you're with people who truly understand what
That's
you're
just-
going through.
They get it.
Right.
They've been there.
Yeah.
Here's one I love for mild depression. Finding new hobbies that bring you joy.
New hobbies.
And I emphasize new.
Okay.
Because it's not just about falling back on things you used to enjoy. It's about actively seeking out fresh experiences.
So almost like reigniting
Yes.
that curiosity.
Exactly, because it reminds you that you are capable of growth and joy, even when it feels impossible.
I like that a lot.
And here's another interesting one.
Okay.
He talks about exploring Christian meditation techniques.
Okay, now is that different than like
Yes,
Buddhist meditation?
it is different because some forms of meditation focus on emptying the mind.
Right.
Christian meditation is about connecting with God's presence,
Okay.
seeking strength and solace through prayer
Mhm.
and reflection on Scripture.
So it's about inviting things in
Exactly.
as opposed to,
Not emptying out, but filling up.
yeah, I like that distinction.
Yeah, it's like a beautiful distinction.
Okay, so those are some things for mild depression.
Yes.
What about moderate depression?
All right, so with moderate depression,
Yeah.
the strategies need to kind of shift a bit.
Because the symptoms are more intense?
Exactly. As the symptoms intensify, we need more.
All right.
Structured support.
Okay.
Cooper uses his list of moderate depression symptoms, almost like a checklist,
Okay.
for you, urging you to recognize when it's time to reach out for professional help.
This isn't just DIY anymore.
This is not DIY.
Right.
This is where therapy or counseling is often recommended.
Okay.
And medication might also be considered.
In consultation with a doctor, of course.
Of course, always in consultation with a doctor.
Yeah, we should say that
Yes.
this is not medical advice.
Not medical advice, just information.
Right.
But we're talking about recognizing when those initial self-care strategies might not be enough.
Yeah.
And seeking out the guidance of someone who can offer more specialized support.
Okay, so you were saying therapy, medication, those sorts of things.
Exactly.
What else can people do?
While professional help is key,
Right.
there are still things you can do on your own
Okay.
to manage moderate depression.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about the grounding power of routine
Yeah.
for mild depression? Well, it's even more crucial in this stage.
Okay.
Cooper suggests creating a detailed schedule,
Okay.
breaking down overwhelming tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
So instead of looking at this huge to-do list,
Exactly.
it's like you have these little
Bite-sized pieces
yes.
that you can actually wrap your head around.
I like that.
And then he talks about social interaction,
Okay.
which might feel daunting at this stage.
Right.
But he suggests exploring support groups
Right. Okay.
because that shared experience can be so powerful.
It's huge.
It is. Finding a safe space where you can connect with others who truly get it.
Yeah.
And he emphasizes the importance of challenging those negative thought patterns
Yes.
that can trap us in a cycle of despair.
And this kind of reminds me of cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes.
We're going to circle back to that a little bit later.
Absolutely.
But that's about
Yeah.
reframing our thinking.
Exactly. It's about identifying those thought patterns
Yeah.
and learning how to challenge them.
So it's not just about
It's not just about positive thinking.
Right.
It's about really looking at the thoughts
Right.
and going, is that really true?
Okay.
What's the evidence for that?
so moderate depression,
Yeah.
right? Upping the
Upping the ante.
strategies a little bit.
Yes.
What about severe depression?
Okay. So with severe depression,
This is where things get really serious.
this is where things get very serious.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that Cooper does not shy away from that.
Okay.
He makes it very clear that seeking immediate professional help
Okay.
is absolutely essential.
This is not something you can just white knuckle through.
He describes symptoms of severe depression.
Right.
Things like intense feelings of worthlessness, suicidal thoughts,
Wow.
significant changes in your sleep patterns or appetite.
Okay.
And he wants you to see these as major red flags.
So if you are experiencing any of this,
Yeah.
it is time to reach out.
Reach out immediately.
Okay. And what does that support look like?
Well, it can look like a lot of things.
Okay.
It can look like a thorough evaluation by a mental health professional, potentially even hospitalization.
Wow. Okay.
If your safety is a concern, medication management is often a big part of treatment,
Okay.
as is building a strong support system.
So really having those people in place.
Having those people in place who can
Yeah.
support you and advocate for you.
Because you might not be able to do it yourself.
Exactly.
It really does sound like you need a team in your corner
You really do.
when you're dealing with that level of depression.
And it can feel overwhelming.
It can.
But again, Cooper doesn't shy away from that.
He doesn't.
He's very honest about the seriousness of it.
Right. And I like that he doesn't just focus on the person with depression.
Yes.
He talks about the caregiver's well-being too.
That's so important
Isn't it?
because caregivers often neglect their own needs.
They do.
They're so busy taking care of everyone else.
Right. And he actually dedicates a whole section to this. And he lays out these strategies that almost feel like a checklist.
It's like a caregiver self-care checklist.
Yeah. What's on the list?
Well, it starts with the non-negotiables.
Okay.
You know, maintaining a healthy lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
making sure you're getting enough sleep, finding ways to manage your stress levels.
Yeah. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
Right.
And then he also talks about the importance of setting realistic goals
Okay.
as a caregiver and celebrating those small victories.
Because when you're caring for someone with depression,
Yes.
progress can be slow.
It can be so slow.
Right. And it's easy to get bogged down in like
Absolutely.
the day-to-day.
It's like, are we even making a difference?
Right.
And then you have to look back and say, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
Look how far we've come.
Those little wins are huge.
They're huge.
Yeah. And I think it's also a good reminder that even small acts of caregiving
Yes.
can make a difference
They really can.
in someone's life.
Even just being present,
Right.
listening without judgment.
And of course, Cooper reminds us
Yes.
that seeking professional help for yourself
Yes.
as a caregiver
Take care of yourself.
is not a sign of weakness.
No, it's essential.
Okay, good.
It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first.
I like that.
Right.
So we can be the best caregiver
Exactly.
for our loved one.
Yes.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot here,
Yeah.
different strategies.
Yes.
But, I was really fascinated by this part of the book,
Okay.
where Cooper brings in these insights from this huge study,
Oh, the Harvard study.
the Harvard study on happiness.
Yes. 80 years of research.
80 years.
Can you imagine?
Following these people for their whole lives.
Their whole lives to figure out what makes people happy.
What makes us tick?
What'd they find?
Well, they found that some things are outside of our control,
Okay, like what?
like our family background,
Okay.
where we grew up.
Okay. We can't control that.
You can't control that.
All right. What else?
But here's the good news.
Yeah. They found that there are 7 controllable predictors of happiness. 7 things that we can actually do
Okay.
to increase our chances of living a happy and fulfilling life.
All right. I'm ready. Hit me with these 7 things.
Okay, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Don't smoke. Avoid alcohol abuse. Maintain a healthy weight exercise, especially walking. Cultivate an adaptive coping style. Pursue education and lifelong learning. And foster stable long-term relationships.
Okay, so that's a lot.
It's a lot.
But it really does highlight this mind-body connection.
Absolutely.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. And I think the most important takeaway here
Yes.
is that we have more control
We do.
than we realize.
We have more agency than we think. We're not just victims of our circumstances.
I like that a lot. We can make choices
We can
every day.
that lead to a happier life.
That's the hope.
It is. And speaking of hope,
Yes.
I kept coming back to this quote
Oh, which one?
that Cooper shares
Yeah.
from Julian of Norwich.
Oh, Julian of Norwich,
You know her.
14th century mystic.
Yeah.
Love her.
She said, all shall be well.
All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well.
It's like a balm for the soul.
It really is.
Isn't it?
Especially when we're going through tough times.
Especially when you're caring for someone
Yes.
who's struggling.
It can feel like a very long road.
It can, but there is hope.
There is. And, I love how Cooper brings in that spiritual dimension.
Yes.
Because we can't forget
No.
that there's something bigger than us.
Absolutely.
That's at work here.
And even when we can't see it,
Right.
even when we can't feel it,
Even when we doubt it,
it's still there.
it's still there.
That's the belief that keeps us going.
It is. And
Yeah.
on that note of hope,
Yes.
I want to thank you for joining us
It's been a pleasure being here.
for this deep dive
Yes.
into understanding and managing depression.
Such an important topic.
If you are struggling, please know that you're not alone.
Absolutely not. Reach out to someone you trust.
Yes.
A friend, a family member, a professional.
There is help available.
There is. And remember, seeking help is a sign of strength.
It is a sign of strength.
It is never a sign of weakness.
Never.
Never.
It takes courage to reach out,
It does.
to ask for help.
Until next time, take care.